Hey everybody, this is Way to Fail, and we are going to be spectating a match today. Now, this is all on a little bit of a delay, so we don't necessarily get to watch things live, but we're going to be taking a look at some Judgment just to see what some other people do and how they play. And today we're going to be looking at a match between Aerelus and Blitzklinge, or Blitzklinge, or I am not sure how to pronounce that, but we're going to watch it anyway, and hopefully things are going to work out. I have had some problems getting these matches to actually spectate and have creatures come out here. But here we go. Blitz is putting down creatures here. He does have Decay and Growth in his deck, and he, as far as I saw, at least from the title introduction here, he has Energy as well, so we're getting right to it. And then we have on the other side Aerelus. I'm really suck at pronouncing some of these names today. He does have an Infectious Blight, which he's going to drop on the Mangy Rat, which is kind of like double poison across the sky. Otherwise, sacrifices for more cards as we're starting to get at least into the area where the game's just starting. So we're going to get a little bit more info here, but these both seem to be pretty creature-heavy aggro decks, so we're going to probably see a lot flying here. The Languid on the Kinfolk Brave, negating what damage it can do. Blitz got to think about it, though. He doesn't have a lot of growth at this point. He's going to really want to hold on to that veteran. Probably debating whether he bear falls the Brave or plays another Kinfolk Ranger. Each play has its benefits. It depends on the kind of removal Aerelus has, because the 2 health, even 4 health, is pretty easy to remove, but he decides to go ahead, use the Brave as a chump blocker, and just have his other creatures out. Most important thing about that is because the Infected Gravelock cannot actually move. Well, at least on its own. I'm sure if you roasted Bean Potion or something, it'd be something, but it's apparently the most astute observation I can make all day here. So, Aerelus, I'm going to figure out how to pronounce that by the end of this probably, puts down an Ilmire Hunter, and actually draws a Fungify as well. So he does have some cards he can work with, both creatures, or both players getting creatures, and both players having some cards to buff here, as Blitz could play a Husk, but elects to get rid of it. Drops his cards back down, not exactly sure what the plan is here other than just to try and spam the board, get more things going. It's possible that this Brave is just going to be the sacrificial death person. I'm not doing too great with this today. Is going to be the sacrificial Brave or Lamb for the Ilmire Tribesman that has just been waiting in the wings and waiting to attack. Now, one combo that I really like in Judgment, it's not even really so much a combo, it's just interesting, is Ilmire Rod Eaters. Because there's so little removal in Judgment that I've seen, unless you're playing an energy deck, is pretty substantial. It's a pretty substantial advantage to get Ilmire Rod Eaters. If you can get them to survive into one creature or a few creatures dying, it's just going to buff you up so much. And I'm sure what Aerelus would really like to do is to get both out, but he just doesn't have the resources for it. He's been going for cards instead of extra resources, which is fine. He probably has a bunch of cheap things in his deck, but at least for now. Just gotta wait for the turn, see if he wants to move anything else. There goes the Brave, so anything that happens in the future is going to be that creature getting attacked. However, Blitz could do a pretty clever play here, because this Kinfolk Ranger is affected by Infectious Blight, and if he leaves it here to die, this Infected Gravelock is going to kill it next turn. So he does put down the Kinfolk Veteran, and he does kill the... Alright, he does kill the Ilmire Hunter there, and once again, there's nothing that Aerelus can do. This Kinfolk Ranger is not going to be able to spread the Infectious Blight because it has to die from poison, unless Aerelus somehow draws something that'll do 1 damage to opposing creatures. And really about the only card that'll do that I can think of in Decay offhand is not a poison card. So that's going to be just removing regardless. So that's too bad for the Infectious Blight. Heads up play by Blitz, who has a Sister of the Bear coming and has all kinds of exciting things in store here. Uneasy Alliance, pretty good card to get. Once again, not sacrificing for resources, but he does have a Machinated in there, so he could possibly start going for some energy play as well. There goes the Infectious Blight, as Blitz now with a Ripper, probably better to sacrifice for scrolls, and there we go. Championship Ring's going to be nice. A Sister of the Owl could be really good just to build up the board a bit. So Blitz looking like he's playing a standard growth deck with some decay support. I've seen that work. I've seen it work with Order as well. Yeah, growth is good for a lot of the tiny creatures it has, because at least in what I've seen in Judgment, people are hesitant to put a bunch of really, really expensive cards because you can't guarantee that what you'll get in the draft. So Aerelus could play an Uneasy Alliance, or he could drop a 3rd Rod Eater just to have those all on the board all at once. Of course, Blitz has shown that he has 1 veteran. If he has multiple veterans, that'd be a thing. But there we go. There's Return to Nature. It's not going to do any good this turn, and it wouldn't have mattered last turn either. But Aerelus, we'll just call him Aelus, I guess, puts down, and I got to remember the name of this card here, puts down an Eager Scryer, which is an interesting card. If you have something like a Pillar of Fatigue, you can just move it every turn and get an extra scroll. But there's not many other reliable ways to keep its count down at 2 at the end of turn. So I do have some deck ideas that involve things like Pillar of Fatigue, actually involve a lot of structures, because there's some pretty interesting, and I'd argue to say devastating, idle damage cards that have been added in this latest update. Of course, it's partially a matter of getting them, because trading right now without people who've been relying on scrolls post for so long for pricing is a little bit up in the air. But right away, Blitz possibly going to be taking out, well, he's not going to take out a full idol here, but he's getting close to doing quite a bit of damage here. In fact, if Aerelus does not protect that bottom idol, it will go down. Now, he can kill the Sister of the Fox with a Return to Nature, and he can kill the Sister of the Bear if he returns to nature, because she'll be down to 3 health. The question is, does he go for that 2-for-1 trade? I think it'd be a valuable move there, just because the Return to Nature will reduce health by 1, and then he can move the Ilmire Tribesman. And there we go. There's the Return to Nature, and he could possibly well, I think he's already sacrificed for cards. But there we go. Oh, that's interesting. Putting the Fungify on this card, on the Eager Scryer. Now its base count down is 2. Now it's going to be getting a card every other turn. Very nice. People know the cards better than me and are smarter than me. That's pretty awesome. More importantly, 8 health as well. 2 creatures down. Very smart play. 1 idol down. Blitz, who was looking like he was in a pretty good situation, might suddenly be having a little bit of a bad time. Of course, one of those Rod Eaters could be going down if Blitz elects to rally, but he's not going to be able to championship ring as well. So one of those could go down to 1 health. Otherwise, not a great spot to be in. This could be a place where Aerelus starts to overrun the board just a little bit. So how do you fight overrunning the board by a bit? You drop a Sister of the Owl, maybe. Question is, where does Blitz want to drop it? Because it is a good card, kind of like Rat King in that it'll get out a bunch of extra creatures. And the Sister of the Owl is buffed or debuffed depending on what the little owls do. But it looks like he's going to be just dropping it out front, try and control the bottom of the board a little bit, which means Aerelus can just juke and go up. And maybe that'll be enough. But at least for now, it looks like one of those owls is marked for death, unless Aerelus elects to start going for idols, which is probably a bad move. I know killing that owl does buff the Sister of the Owls. The numbering here does get in the way of the art just a little bit, but still not a bad thing. Aerelus not showing that he has energy yet, which is pretty interesting. He could drop a Potion of Resistance. That'd be a pretty pleasant surprise. He could drop a Dust Runner, which would be pretty devastating to most of the units on this board here. I'd like to see the other Rod Eater out at some point, but it's probably not going to be this turn. But still just sitting and waiting and debating. It looks like he's going to be going after one of the owls from the look of it. There's the third Rod Eater, so if Blitz can start killing things, because if he does rally, that is going to be the plan, is going to kill things. Those Rod Eaters are going to buff themselves up so much. This is almost the point where you kind of hope for a Quake, not that Blitz has it in this draft more than likely. Quake is usually a pretty terrible card to play against Decay, though, as I've learned from personal experience. But there we go. That's a 2/5 Sister of the Owl. And Blitz getting a Ragged Wolf, which could be interesting. He could take out one of the Rod Eaters and not buff too much of anyone else. He could Ragged Wolf. He could rally as well, or he could try and save the rally. The question is, what's going to be better? Does Blitz want to go for an idol, or does he want to go for actually doing damage? Because if he kills creatures in a certain order here, this Rod Eater could go up to 5/5. This Rod Eater could go up to 5/5. And that's not going to be pleasant, but they're also not going to be attacking next turn. So it's important for Blitz possibly to kill this Rod Eater. You got to be careful on how you buff him. But definitely a lot to think about here, as Blitz is taking his dear sweet time, which is okay. We're watching in real time, so I don't necessarily feel bad about missing maybe the very, very start of the game too. But he has sacrificed for scrolls. Interesting that he threw an Oblivion Seeker in this draft deck. Probably more by default than anything, because it looks like he doesn't have a lot of Decay scrolls to actually play up to 5 resources. But regardless, here comes the bum rush, perhaps. Is it going to be... I guess the question is it going to be a rally, or is it going to be... It's not going to be another Kinfolk Brave followed by a rally, although that could have been nice. That won't happen this turn. There's the championship ring, so it looks like Blitz is sitting on the rally just a little bit. Unfortunately, these 2 kills are still going to buff up the opponent so much. But I guess that's just the way the stones go. So 2 5/5 Rod Eaters. Blitz is going to have to deal with it next turn, and if he rallies, he can. Question is, does Aerelus sniff it out that maybe he's holding on to ramping something? He does drop the Card Bro up in front. He has a Marshambler that he can drop in. And the nice thing about the Marshambler is that it dies easily, and if it dies, it buffs the Rod Eaters as well. So Pest Assimilator, also a very valuable card. Unfortunately, oh, this is going to get ugly for Blitz. He's putting his Rod Eater at the front, and that's... Your Rod Eaters are really your bread and butter in Judgment for Decay here. Those are the cards that can carry you to victory. You want to try and put your chump units in front of him if you can, like a Marshambler there. Pest Disseminator, don't get me wrong, it's a good card and it's good to get out because it can spread a lot of poison and that kind of thing, but maybe not the best idea here. Now the question is Blitz going to go for one of the Rod Eaters and make the other one 6/6? He actually has a Fungify as well, which is interesting to me, but I guess the question now is, does he want to do something like Draining Mist and slow it down? He doesn't have the resources for it. He could rally, but that's going to be maybe not the best option with the cards that he has. He could drop his Veteran down and play a Ragged Wolf and take out one of the Rod Eaters, and that looks like that's what he's going to do here. Probably wants to make another play, but he's going to have to get some more decay first, and at this point, Blitz has been focusing way more on upping his growth total, so you got to get those decay cards in there as well. And Aerelus kind of throwing away his Rod Eater unnecessarily. He could have had a Marshambler out there and really deterred any of the potential attacks. Those guys are really valuable as things that die very easily. And he could have buffed up both of his Rod Eaters instead of having one of them die. But instead, what do we get here? Pillar of Disease, which will decrease the attack by 1. That neuters a lot of this row. And Aerelus, if he can do 1 damage, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to, but if he can do 1 damage, he can possibly get this Kinfolk Veteran down with the Dust Runner. But instead, it looks like it's going to be the Ragged Wolf that dies to the Dust Runner. As Blitz, Blitz holding on to what he can right now, kind of being outpaced with the creatures that are available, and Aerelus electing to go with 6 health on the Rod Eater, just going for Omnivore instead, so if creatures die around it, he gets even more cards. And right now, Aerelus is kind of in the lead, despite some of the plays that maybe I had some questions about. Blitz kind of in a really tough situation, because he's got to make something happen on the attack, and he does not have enough decay to make things work. A Draining Mist could be really useful here, but once again, he just doesn't have the decay at this point. A Fungify could be interesting, but he doesn't really want his cards to slow down. And at this point, Aerelus, like I said before, he could just start moving up and moving away from the creatures. He only has to take out 3 of the idols to win, but right now he does have a board advantage with more creatures, and Blitz just kind of getting hit hard by his draw. So where's the Fungify going to go, I guess is the first question. Gets everybody out. He could Fungify and then rally. What's that going to do, though? Because it's still only going to kill 1 creature. I'm sure Blitz is trying to find a way to possibly... There we go. So quick Fungify, 211 now. And he doesn't rally, so he's holding on to that rally for something. And right now we have a Sister of the Owl who is the beefiest Sister of the Owl this side of Owltown. Aerelus could Iron Bile here. I know some people are kind of critical of this card, but Curse 1 and Attack 1 until the end of opponent's turn. It's not, well, he's not going to be able to kill the Sister of the Owl, so I guess that's not a great move because it is such a strong blocker. And once again, Aerelus doesn't really have the creature removal that he needs, so maybe it's time for him to start going for idols. He could play another Rod Eater here. Plenty of options available. But just selects to play the Marshambler. Does sacrifice for energy, which is, well, you know, got to get energy at some point, but you kind of prefer to do that with the card in hand that you're actually going to play. So now he's tipped his hand that he does have some energy. Oh, I'm so stupid. Of course, there's the Dust Runner that's already out. I'm apparently just losing it today. I apologize, but I did want to just show you all what this looks like, so we're going to stick with it, even if I get things wrong from time to time because I have a brain fart because I am the opposite of perfect scroll-a-deer, if you will. So there's the pest disseminator pesting these guys on with its pest. Aerelus once again could rally. This Rod Eater is going to die, so Aerelus is just putting it out there to die instead of trying to drop a cheaper creature in front of it. And once again, we're at the situation where does Blitz want to actually play more Decay Scrolls? He's got to sacrifice 4 Decay here to kind of see what happens, because at this point, Aerelus, all he really has to do is just start spreading the board, trying to get creatures out of the way before Blitz can do anything. And this is where Puppet Nutrition was not allowing these plays, because you couldn't stack the rows with things because people would just clear it and move their stuff back. But now without that, especially in Judgment, this is the situation where we're sitting in. So Blitz sacrificing for scrolls, electing to move up. Oh no, there's the rally as well. And Draining Mist. Oh, this is going to be a tough break, because there's 2 buffed Rod Eaters. And that is not going to be enough to take out the Rod Eater here. Blitz with a miscalculation there, forgetting that the Rod Eater is going to gain 1 health when this Mire Shambler dies. So now it's 8-1. And the Omnivore, I'm not exactly sure if the Omnivore is going to trigger first or if the health increase is going to trigger first. So tough to see here, as obviously I can't count as well because the Omnivore kept that at 1. That was only 5 damage. So I am the master of the Scrolls universe today. I hope for those of you that appreciate my self-deprecation as opposed to self-defecation, which I have not done in ages, but like last week. That's not true. But yeah, apparently I'm calling all kinds of things wrong, but at least I think it's interesting to highlight at least some of the spectating matches as well, or the opportunity to spectate, because it's a good way to learn, especially if you're not familiar with the game, you're not familiar with cards, you just want to see how other people play. I do a lot of casts of people who maybe have higher rating, but they're just kind of who float to the top, and a lot of high-rated players are the ones that submit some of the most replays. That's why you'll see some videos by me casting Blinky things a lot, which, by the way, Blinky, I know, loves the fact that I keep picking matches he loses. There we go. He wins more than he loses. There's something clever that can be said there. Unfortunately, not for the Rod Eater, who's about to die. But I think spectating, it really opens up the possibility of looking at just a wide variety of players, whether it's high-rated, whether it's low-rated. I'm not going to be someone who, like Husky StarCraft, who's someone I've watched for quite some time, who does Bronze League Heroes, where he looks at games from low-rated players and kind of tears into them, has some fun with them. I don't think that I'm good enough at Scrolls to really do the same thing here. And that's not really what I'm all about. I just want to have an opportunity to look at other players and see kind of how they play the game, how they hold things together, and if Blitz keeps his cards like this without a Ranger in front, there we go. That's good. I was about to say that Pest Disseminator is just going to re-poison that Veteran and everything's going to die. Instead now he has this Ranger rooted here, and everything is just walled in. So Blitz hanging on. Once again, Aerelus could potentially attack, start going after idols up here, but instead we get an uneasy alliance. And there's no second uneasy alliance out there. And there is Iron Bile, so looks like somebody's going for it today, and I don't know if that's going to be the right move. Curse 1 is going to mean that this Kinfolk Veteran and possibly the Sister of the Owl die, depending on the damage that's there, because there's poison. That is stacked poison. That is going to be a big death for the Sister of the Owl. Great move by Aerelus there. There's where Iron Bile can work for you, because the Curse 1 remains until the end of the opponent's turn. So yes, Blitz does have a Kinfolk Brave that's going to be 5-2 this turn. And there's the surrender from Blitz. That was just a real devastating move. But there we go. That's kind of what spectating does and work. Good play by both players. Like I said, I'm sitting here. It's really easy for me watching the game instead of being in to say, oh, is that a misplay? Is that not a misplay? What are you thinking? What are you not thinking? It's also easy for me to sit here and say, well, when did he get energy? But regardless, I do encourage you all to play matches, which is great because playing matches is part of the game. But there is this whole spectator mode, and there's all kinds of ways you can sort. If you're struggling with Judgment, you want to see how people are doing with Judgment, you can watch how people kind of play their Judgment decks. So you can sort by rating, you can sort by most popular. I mean, there's plenty of options available. You can, even if you're not sure about a challenge mode, you can't sort by specific challenge. I'd love to see that in there. But I mean, there's plenty of options here if you want to just see ranked, what kind of decks are, not just what kind of decks are working at the highest level ranks. Here's we have Ghost Bomb versus Hen 1000. But not just what kind of decks work in the top rating, but how they work. So spectating is a great tool for you to use, and I'm going to be using this some and doing some live commentary of other people's games, so you might be surprised to see your name up or not, I don't know. But once replay software kind of gets back up, because sad news, Scrolls Post is shutting down, which is unfortunate, but I do appreciate the contributions of everyone who is working on Scrolls Post. I think it was an army of one person, actually. Putting that mod together really contributed to the community for a while, but hopefully someone's going to pick up the torch there. So replays will be coming when they come. Otherwise, you know what? This is Way to Fail with Scrolls for now. I mean, the game's dying every day, which is why people are continuing to play and enjoy it. But that's it for now. See you next time.